Adobe Acrobat Studio, so brand new. Show me all the things PDFs can do. Do your work with ease and speed. PDF Spaces is all you need. Do hours of research in an instant with key insights from an AI assistant. Pick a template with a click. Now your Prezzo looks super slick. Close that deal? Yeah, you won. Do that, doing that, did that, done. Now you can do that with Acrobat. Now you can do that with the all-new Acrobat. It's time to do your best work with the all-new Adobe Acrobat Studio.
Fair to call that one a game of two halves, I'd say.
Yes, and not just about Anderson's performance either. You know, decent, terrible, decent, terrible. Yeah, I thought United were pretty good for quite a lot of that game, actually. I thought there was some really nice attacking play. A lot of it went through Kagawa. We talked about him a lot last week. I thought Cleverley was very good in central midfield. The forwards were good. Wonderful goal from Van Persie. So some very good general attacking play. Defensively, another mess, I think, basically. And Fulham could have come out of that game with a draw or better, in fact, given some of the chances they had. And once again, no protection in front of the back four. And the back four, which was pretty much all over the place.
Well, it's interesting because whenever we talk about Rafael or Evra, you always talk about how Sir Alex wants defenders who can play one-on-one as a key part of his central defender choice is that they have to be able to do that, and so the fullbacks are free. Of course, if you play Carrick at the back, you're essentially playing one central defender, and Carrick is exposed to all the lack of cover because A, he's not in midfield to provide the cover, and B, he needs way more cover from his fullbacks than the normal central defenders do.
Right, and I don't think Nemanja Vidic is match sharp yet either. I have to say, I think he's been exposed a couple of games in a row. That's not to say there's anything wrong with him long term. I just think he's not quite there yet, and he's been out for months and all of that. And it all contributes, and the fact that there is no proper cover in front of the back four is causing United quite a lot of defensive problems, and the United played well attacking wise and actually managed to convert some chances, which obviously didn't happen at Everton, and the 3 goals weren't necessarily in the end, but it really could have gone pear-shaped. I mean, it had a feeling of that Everton game all over it, didn't it?
Yeah, it certainly did.
Everton 4-4 game, I mean, not the Everton 0-1.
Yeah, and basically I'm just really delighted that we won, because you can't draw any conclusions from our defensive unit when it has Carrick at centre-back. It's just like, did we scrape through even though Carrick was at centre-back? Yes, brilliant. Let's move on to the next game. Because when Rio comes back, Vidic is going to look a million times better, because that's what Rio does to whoever's standing next to him.
Yeah, and I mean, it could be another couple of weeks at least. I mean, after the international break for Rio as the minimum. But Johnny Evans played in a reserve game on Wednesday night, so there's a chance he might come back for the Southampton game probably. Of course, he's on the bench against Fulham, so we'll see. You know, it's looking, the future isn't looking terrible there. It's looking a little bit brighter. I'd say by the time we're back from the international break, should have another couple of fit central defenders, and then we're only really talking a few weeks until Smalling's back. So there's light at the end of that tunnel, but it's definitely caused United problems against Fulham, and of course, I mean, I guess that was one talking point that came out of the game. The other talking point, of course, was the performance of Dembele, and everyone afterwards was saying, oh, United should sign him, and he's a player that the club reportedly, and I use that in inverted commas, bid about £5 million for at the beginning of the summer. And that was a wonderful performance, and he really, honestly, in the second half especially, he really showed up Anderson, and it was another inconsistent performance from our Brazilian.
Yeah, I mean, Dembele was excellent, and now he's gone to Tottenham Hotspur, and I'm sad about that, because I would have absolutely loved us to sign Dembele. I would have. That would have put the icing on a very, very nice cake of this transfer window if we'd bought him.
Got to be consistent on this one. I thought he was excellent, but I think I've pretty much said all along I'm not certain that he's the right player for United. I mean, he's a really good attacking central midfielder now. You kind of thought of him as a wide player that might have been all right and a forward who didn't score enough, and he played in both those positions a lot at Fulham before converting into central midfield, where he appears to have blossomed. And the physicality thing's there, and he gets around, he makes more dribbles than any other player from central midfield. There's not many players that will do that from central midfield, and that they're special when they come along, but it doesn't mean he's He's the kind of defensive player that United could do in the squad, and it doesn't mean he's a destroyer anyway. It doesn't mean he's necessarily a creator either, but he's got some very good qualities. But I have to say, those little caveats made me think that he probably wouldn't have been my first choice for a central midfielder. Apparently not Fergie's either, because otherwise United might have upped the bidding, or not.
Well, no, I mean, I think this isn't one of those transfers where you can say, oh, it's such a shame that the Glazers exist because we're not able to compete, because I'm sure we could have competed for Tottenham for the signing of Dembele if Fergie had wanted to. I really, you really do suspect that that's the case. Unlike Modric to Madrid, where you think, well, we're clearly, obviously, it's not like Fergie wouldn't want Modric, but we're clearly not in a position to fight that fight. But I think if he'd wanted Dembele, we would have got him. So I'd like to talk a bit about United's attacking play. You mentioned earlier, thought it was impressive, Kagawa, once again, Kagawa, right? Lengthy discussions on Twitter about the pronunciation. There's no Gao sound in it, so it is not Kagawa, and there's no emphasis in Japanese, apparently, or there's no emphasis in Kagawa anyway, so you just hit all the syllables equally. It's Kagawa. Do
you make an effort to pronounce Nemanja Vidic in Serbian?
No, but you don't pronounce it Eric Cantona, do you? So you do, you know, it's all selective. He's getting the full Kagawa treatment from commentators, which does slightly ruin the, all we need is Shinji Kagawa. It's not as good, is it? We need to find a new song for him if that's...
yeah, but in the songs you always bastardise the vowels, so...
Yeah, that's true. He was brilliant. Again, I'm really in love, but we'll be talking about that a lot during the season, so...
We will. Well, actually his performance is different.
Yes,
and factually it was, and we can get onto this one again. And he actually, it's interesting because he didn't actually create nearly as many chances for United's players in this game, and didn't get any assists, and didn't. Well, he scored his goal, and so that was a bit different. I thought the way that he played was different because he was getting more balls into the right areas, and that might be, as we discussed last week, the difference between Wayne Rooney playing there and Robin van Persie. Maybe that was the case. I mean, he was certainly playing a lot more balls into the box and forward, whereas an awful lot of his play against Everton went square. And that was completely different. He was more penetrative as a result. And I think if he plays like that more often, and United is set up to allow him to play like that more often, he's going to be a lot more dangerous player as a result of it.
I mean, I don't want to go back to it really, but I didn't see like a lot of his passing as being square against Everton. I thought quite a lot of it was very penetrative, and you just said he created a lot of chances. But listen, he was wonderful, and I think it's just so exciting. It's just so exciting. I was watching it, and it's Kagawa and Van Persie up front together. The thing that really made me think of is when you take over Manchester United on Football Manager, and the first thing you do is make two ridiculous signings, you know, and so the team is kind of the team that you know, but there's just these two really key differences. And I mean, what did you make of Van Persie's home debut?
Well, I thought in terms of his performance, he wasn't actually in the game that often, and so, you know, a 7 out of 10 or something. Funnily enough, I've actually decided this season to create a database where I'm going to rank all the players, and I'm going to look at why they're in the team, why they're not in the team, and score it, whether they were dropped or injured and stuff like that. And we'll come to some conclusions at the end of 60 games or so, you know, just so, you know, I'm creating some database for my thoughts.
That's the coolest thing I've ever heard.
Well, it's really not. It's extremely nerdy. But the point I was trying to make with that is that, you know, it's like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 performance from Van Persie. I think there's loads more to come from him, and I think as the rest of the team works out how they're playing now, which is, you know, obviously very different, I think. And, you know, on the face of it, the shape is not hugely different. I think in reality there's a significant amount of difference in how they're playing, and once people get used to that, we're going to get more out of him, and he'll be contributing more. But, you know, having said all that, just a wonderful strike. I think most strikers would have hit the defender. He managed to get less than half a yard of space, and you know, managed to score from less than half a chance, so you really can't complain about that.
I think it's pretty clear that statistically our best attacking player in that game was Raphael.
6 shots, 5 of them on target. Yeah, he's...
Well, the 442 stat zone thing says 4 shots, 2 on targets, including 1 goal, 71 out of 75 completed passes, 28 out of 29 attacking third passes, 3 out of 3 successful take-ons of players, also 5 out of 6 tackles. So pretty impressive performance. And for some reason, I don't know how this is even possible, 2 out of 2 aerial duels won. That doesn't seem like it could be possible, but I wonder if that includes his goal.
Well, maybe I'm not quite sure what defines an aerial duel. Yeah, he had a fine game, but of course got out of position for one of the Fulham goals, and that is a criticism that is going to continue to be levelled at him until he sorts out the defensive side of his game. And ditto on the other side, Patrice Evra, it's been a problem for him for 18 months or so, hasn't it? The defensive side of his game, and you just... It can't happen too often, otherwise it causes a real problem. And it can't happen too often when there are other problems in the defence, central defence at the moment. I mean, United had the second best defensive record in the Premier League last season. I'm sure Ferguson would like to have the best. His strategy this season is to make sure we have the best attacking record in the Premier League, quite clearly. But the two things do go together. United lost the Premier League title on goal difference, and goal difference is the amount of goals scored minus the amount of goals conceded. So those two things balance out equally there. And United do have to make sure they're tight enough at the back. And right now, they're really not. And it's mostly to do with shape, but also partly to do with individual mistakes. And Raphael does still make them.
A lot. And I like him. And I think he's a sort of asset to United. But he definitely causes problems when he plays at right back. He's definitely just not the brightest footballer, He just has kind of pretty poor decision making, I think, in relative terms. It's interesting. I was listening to something the other day where they were talking about how in Fergie's autobiography, one of the things he talks about as being one of the most highly prized characteristics of the types of player he likes is incredible concentration. And if you think about the kind of Fergie era United greats, they really do have that kind of concentration. Raphael definitely doesn't, because you can almost visibly see him making bad decisions, like when he tries to pull back a player or whatever.
And other players in Ferguson's time have been accused of that too. I mean, particularly Rio Ferdinand, when he was younger, was accused of losing concentration, and no one would accuse him of that anymore. So partly that's experience. You just hope he grows up fast. Right, but it's a problem because he makes mistakes and it costs United goals and potentially points. But also Ferguson's so harsh with him. He appears to drop him after any mistake, and we'll see at Southampton. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he dropped him and Antonio Valencia plays at right back. Had a great game, Raphael, but made one mistake where he got out of position and it cost United a goal. So we'll see. And anyway, I mean, I think that does dovetail into our conversation we said we'd have about the transfer window. Across the two games, we've seen some problems, a lot in midfield, and a lot that's been caused by Carrick's move to the back and a lot in defence. And so it begs the question, really, did United pursue the right strategy over the summer? Have we got the right players? Are we missing anything still? And what does that mean for the rest of the season?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because the one huge talking point we haven't touched on from the Fulham game was that horrendous injury to Wayne Rooney, a couple of months out with a massive gaping flesh wound. If you haven't seen the animated GIF of Danny Welbeck reacting to seeing that, it is very, very funny, although kind of unfortunate. He just does a little hop, skip and a jump when he realises what's happened, because it's gross. His leg is open and it's apparently gone right into the muscle, and that's why it's such a long time out. But there's no panic that Rooney's not there now because of the way the transfer window's gone.
Yeah.
In fact, sorry to harp on about Football Manager, I've just been playing a lot because of that book, Football Manager Stole My Life. I know Football Manager isn't real and doesn't directly compare to football, but you do get that thing where you sign a star player you don't quite need, and you kind of hope one of your other star players gets injured so you can just play him without a selection dilemma. I'm sure that in actual reality, Fergie was certainly not hoping Rooney would get a terrible injury.
No, and I did see some people tweeting similar things, which is totally ridiculous. I mean, Rooney scored 34 goals last season. There's no way you need him or want him to be injured. And even if a consequence of that is that the new players get to play with each other, that doesn't mean that was Ferguson's strategy all along, to play Kagawa and Van Persie as a front two, if you will. So, it's not good news for United that Rooney is injured. It's not good news for Rooney either, because he takes a long time to get fit. It will take him a while, apparently. I mean, worry about infection and stuff like that means he can't do the pool work, and it's going to take him quite a long time to build up his fitness as a result, or he might lose quite a bit of fitness. And of course, as an aside, it's the first time Rooney's had a nasty gash and didn't have to pay for it.
Oh, gross. That's just gross. The other key thing about Rooney in the Fulham game and the transfer window is that Rooney was just full on dropped. You know, he was bad against Everton and Fergie just didn't play him.
Yeah, probably. Although Ferguson didn't say that. He said it's all about fitness, and Wayne Rooney understands that. And we'll see. I mean, Ferguson and the Truth are strange bedfellows, aren't they? So, you know, I'm not sure that he was telling the full truth there. I think you're probably right. I think he was just dropped. He just didn't play very well, so he was dropped, and Ferguson took the best option, which was to play Van Persie from the start in his favoured formation.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really exciting because Rooney's an odd presence at United. Obviously has ardent, fervent supporters, and so he's been an excellent player for the club. But there's the whole transfer request thing. There's his kind of perceived or maybe real lack of professionalism in terms of like he smokes a lot and stuff, and you know his fitness is not the best, although when he does hit peak fitness it's kind of excellent, but it's not like he looks after himself that well. So he's a weird relationship with the club, and he's always seemed a bit, you know, big man on campus in his attitude. So it's very interesting to see how he's going to respond to the signing of Van Persie, but it definitely gives United a completely different dimension, you know, and I don't just mean on the pitch. Van Persie offers something that other players don't. I mean, his presence in the squad adds a component to the overall meta game that is Manchester United.
Oh, sure. I think the real threat to Rooney's place is not Van Persie, it's Kagawa. And if you take season last year as a whole, he played much more of it in the sort of number 10 role than he played up front on his own or in a front two. I mean, Welbeck and Hernandez got a decent share of games playing up front and Rooney played deeper. So interesting when they both played for a small period of time and Van Persie actually dropped deeper and Rooney went up top. I'm not sure how that will be how it works out as the season goes on. I think actually Rooney will be the rover and Van Persie will be the pivot, the 9, if you like. But arguably, if that's how United are going to play, and it's a big if, and Ferguson changes the tactics around a lot, arguably Kagawa is a more natural number 10. And if you're going to play that way, if you're going to play 4 with 2 holding midfielders and 3 behind a 1, then Kagawa might naturally fit into that position, and you might end up shifting Rooney left. But you know, we'll see. I mean, these are debates that will play out over the course of the season, and we don't have to make those decisions, or Ferguson doesn't have to make those decisions because Rooney's going to be out for a couple of months, and he can pick a team without worrying about that.
So, in terms of the transfer window, if you had said to me at the beginning of the window, we're going to buy a backup left back, we're going to buy a Japanese genius to play in the number 10 role, you know, the creative spark that we've all been kind of crying out for in a lot of ways, and just to sweeten the deal, we'll get Nick Powell, up and coming attacking midfielder from Crewe, and Chilean striker I've never heard of who other people say is brilliant. Then we're also going to buy Robin Van Persie. Now the downside is we're not going to buy a central midfielder or an out and out, you know, actual central midfielder. I would have been like, do you know what, I'll take the hit, you know. Yes, I wish we'd bought a central midfielder, but we didn't, and we basically addressed every other problem that I perceived in the squad. I don't think we need any more centre-backs, albeit, you know, it would have been nice to have one this week, but squad-wise, you would never say, let's buy another centre-back. As you've said, Van Persie might not be the fantastic player we need, but it's phenomenally good to have him because, you know, I mean, he's propped up Arsenal the last couple of seasons, last season in particular, and we really could do with a striker who can prop us up when we're not playing well. You know, that's right. to have another one who can do that. It's just, I think overall, you know, the effect on the squad is we are way closer to City than we were when the season finished.
Look, this is very true. I think United are net better at the start of this season than at the end of last season. And there's a lot more attacking options. That attack that was ponderous at times last season shouldn't be this season. There are way more options. There should be no shortage of goals. But there might have to be. And if you can't give them the platform, as happened at Everton, despite all that possession, the point being, if you can't give the platform to the attacking players to score goals, you're not going to score goals. So it might well be that United need to take a very few number of chances at a very high percentage, right, in order to win those big games. And that may well be the gamble Ferguson's taking. He's gambling that even if United aren't on top in some of the really big games where teams like City or in Europe have, you know, more of the ball or have more presence in midfield, that United will be able to take more chances. I mean, already United's chance conversion rate was higher than anyone else last season, and it should be even higher still this.
Yeah, absolutely, and sort of the fashioning of chances out of not that much as well. It goes way up. It's not a figure that it's easy to quantify, but you know, Van Persie makes stuff happen.
People have talked about whether Ferguson has some kind of mental block about central midfield. I'm sure he doesn't. I'm sure he just made the calculation. I have this pot of money. It was quite obvious. Everyone said it was 40 million because that's what Manchester United's chief Vice Chairman Edward Woodward said it was, right? So, there's a lot of transparency there, which is unusual with the Glazer family. So he went out and spent his 40 million, spent a little bit over actually, but, Berbatov's heading off, so we'll round out about that. And he could have spent his 24 million on AN midfielder. Robin Van Persie, eventually the deal got done. They were chasing that for a while. But, with any transfer window, there's a lot of plates spinning. So they keep a lot of plates spinning and they're going to work out which ones are about to fall and which ones might come good. And in the end, that one turned good. If Arsenal had been much more intransigent, I think we might have seen United spend the money on a midfielder because I don't think they were after another striker. I think it was, it's opportunism in many ways.
Opportunism kind of sounds like a bad word almost in football decision-making, but sometimes opportunism is taking advantage of a brilliant opportunity. And this really was one because, we kind of need players to want to come to us now. We need them to not be basing their decisions purely on money, because if he based his decision purely on money, he would have gone to City. You would expect, because it can't be that they weren't interested in him.
So, Mark Ogden wrote in the Telegraph that City had decided not to go for him because they didn't see it as a good deal. That there may well be some truth in that. I'm sure that Mark has conversations with Brian Marwood, and he's briefed off the record, as happens in this business. And I'm sure that's the positive spin that City are putting on it. I think if Van Persie had given the word that he was interested in going to City and, he was happy to take that check, they'd have done the deal.
Sure. So just to go back to the Kagawa point, he attempted 49 passes in the Fulham game as opposed to 75 in the Everton game because he was on the pitch for only about 60 minutes, wasn't it, against Fulham? And basically played a lot deeper in terms of the amount of passes he made. But the difference is just the number of passes, basically. If he made a lot more sideways passes in the Everton game, but that was because he made a lot more passes.
Yeah, that's really not the point I was making, actually. I was talking about penetration and his impact on the game. So he made one pass into... Here's a good example of what I'm talking about. He made one pass into the Everton box against Everton and made 4 in 50% less time against Fulham, right? And that's kind of what I'm talking about. Not whether he passed it backwards or sideways or whatever. I mean, I think he actually had a 100% pass completion rate of his backwards passes, something like that. He makes a very, very high percentage of passes. It's about the penetration, right? And that was different against Fulham than it was against Everton.
You're absolutely right.
That's exactly why I said when United played against Everton, he didn't make that difference, right? And that wasn't a criticism of his quality or his play. And we actually said that probably some of the fault for that was with Wayne Rooney and his lack of movement, and I think probably Van Persie helped him. It's one of those nuanced things you can't really measure, can you? It's like defensive quality, is a defender in the right place, can't measure that one with a statistic, It's the forward in the right place to allow him to make the pass. Maybe that helps, but it just, there were more against Fulham in less time, and there's more penetration. If we keep getting that, it's going to be really massively valuable. He's going to get more assists. He'll get in the right place for goals because, people will be playing him into the right spaces too, and that's just a lot better. Against Everton, it was going sideways on the edge of the box, and it just doesn't help United when that's the case, and it's not blame on him. Could be the system, could be other players, probably Wayne Rooney, but, it was better against Fulham.
The only bit I slightly disagree with out of all of what you just said, I slightly disagree with it doesn't help United, but I kind of know, I don't think you mean that literally. I think you mean it doesn't help United as much as when there's those penetrative balls behind the back four into the striker in the box.
Which is what he's doing. He's the number 10. That's his role in the team. Otherwise we might as well play another midfielder.
I mean, I don't know anything about 3 of the 5 players we've bought, because I'm not knowledgeable about Chilean football or lower league football in England, and nor do I follow the Eredivisie. So I'm not going to claim any particular knowledge. I think it's brilliant that we've bought, so long as Alex Büttner can play a bit, that's fine. We just need a decent option at left back is brilliant, because we didn't have it at all, and it could have been one of those things that makes Fergie play 9 players out of position, because he seems to think that if you put one player out of position, you have to move all the others out of position to compensate for it somehow.
He won't play loads. Bootner, and as long as Evra doesn't get injured, that doesn't matter. He's not been bought to replace Evra, as I said before. He's been bought to complement and to give Evra a rest, and that's absolutely fine. We'll see if he's any good. Of course, we haven't seen him play. I know I saw Vitesse play last season, but I just can't remember him. So we'll see. Time will tell with that one.
The other thing that's really, I know I keep dragging us back to the Fulham game, but the performance of David De Gea, I feel like it's really important to say, shut up to all the stupid, idiotic nonsense. People talking about De Gea's performance as if it was somehow like, he dropped a massive clanger for that second goal, for Fulham's second goal. He was definitely fouled for that goal. He was nudged out the way, and yet he lacks a little bit of strength coming for crosses for sure. And then at the end, he makes this save that basically no other keeper in the league would have made, where he has to punch the ball away because it's coming too fast and too suddenly for him to clutch it into himself. And there's like a little corridor between the groups of players to the left of him and the right of him, and he punches the ball directly through a hole in the crowd. It was like Cantona's finish in the cup final against Liverpool. It had to take that exact perfect line not to hit anyone, and De Gea managed to find out with a punch. And no mention of that Fulham game would be complete without talking about his absolutely sick drag back on Petric when he's one-on-one with Petric and he does a little, like, I don't know what you call that move, but it's just like a drag back behind his legs and spins it out and gets the ball out. Lovely stuff.
There's a thing now where everything he does is looked upon negatively. So yes, he didn't catch the cross. Let's just ignore the fact that he was blatantly fouled. He punched that ball. He should have caught it. He dragged back. That was a bit risky. So there's a bit of an aura around him that says he makes a lot of mistakes, and he doesn't. I mean, I have to say I only blame him about 25% for that goal. He should have been stronger, but Vidic and the defender fouled him. So anyway, we should move on. We really should. And we talked a little bit about the transfer window, and of course the one big departure, Dimitar Berbatov. Has he decided on a club yet? I'm not sure. He's gone to Fiorentina. He's gone to Juve. Maybe he can play half and half. He's that cool.
We are recording this on Wednesday night, which means we don't know yet the final destination of Dimitar Berbatov, but it looks like the joy of him start wearing purple. It didn't come off, but he's wearing the black and white stripes instead, which is great for him as long as he's definitely a guaranteed first teamer, because it'd be terrible if he went to Juve and ended up on their bench, but I don't think he will. He's such a natural fit for Serie A. We've talked about, we've basically said everything we could possibly say about Dimitar Berbatov. I love him. I'm going to miss him. It's been wonderful having him at United. It's been really sad that he's never been used to his fullest potential, but I'm always going to be grateful for that thing against West Ham, that hat-trick against Liverpool, and him being absolutely instrumental in our 19th title.
All of that is true, and we have said a lot about Berbatov over the years, so I guess there's no need to repeat it. It's a shame that talent wasn't translated into more, and in the end Ferguson lost trust in him. Talking about style and substance, Nemanja Vidic, United's captain, said this week, and sorry for paraphrasing, that United need the points not to play well, and that's what it's all about this season. It's about racking up the points to make sure that United win the title. What did you make of this? Because in a way, I thought it was slightly strange what he said, because it felt like it's not an either or, it's not a zero-sum game. I hope we play really good football this season, and it seems like that's what we're going to try and do. He also said another strange thing, that we're going to be working harder this year. I was like, you didn't work hard enough last year, if that's the case.
Well, I think they didn't work hard enough last year. They did for a lot of the season, but they got complacent last year. I really, we talked about the concept of complacency ad nauseum last season, but when they were 8 points clear, it really sunk in big time. And actually, Nemanja wasn't on the pitch, so I'm sure that was part of the reason why. He's going to make sure they work harder by staring at them. The whole thing about style over substance is somebody should have told Fergie, because he appears to have based his entire transfer window policy on making us even more attractive.
It's fascinating what United are going to do this season. Of course, the first month of last season, it looked like this was going to happen until Tom Cleverley got injured, and that was all the impetus left, didn't it, from that? And then United became an awful lot more functional, basically for the remainder of the season, because Cleverley didn't come back, and when he did, he was on the bench and got a few minutes here and there. So that'll be key. Cleverley's played well in the first 2 games, I think. He's so neat and tidy with his passing. Interesting stat, actually. Against Fulham, every single one of United's players had pass completion rates over 90%. Every single one.
That's incredible. That is absolutely amazing, isn't it? You know, that is, and we said this last week, you know, that is something new for us compared to the last couple of seasons where giving the ball away has been a real problem for our midfield. This season, I guess we're not totally dependent on Tom Cleverley not getting injured, but sure, if 2 or 3 key attacking creative talents get injured, then we might have a problem.
Well, I think one of the interesting things with Cleverley is that he's playing quite deep, and I don't know if you saw much of the Olympics, but he basically played as a number 10 for Great Britain. He also did against Italy. He played in that link between midfield and attack for England when England beat Italy recently. So he's playing a lot deeper than that. He's definitely in a 2. He's got less licence to go forward. He has been going forward, but he's got a bit less licence, and his job is to recycle the ball as quickly as possible and get it into the feet of the attacking players. And I think he's done a very good job about that. Interesting quote from Kagawa, who said that United's players shouldn't be afraid to get the ball into him quickly and should stop playing the ball from side to side. And I think the point about that, it'd be interesting to see what the real translation was for that one. But I think the point is not about playing it forward to him quickly, but it's about making sure the play goes through him, you know, and that's what you should do with a number 10.
It's just worth pointing out that you've just answered at my Sentinel's Twitter question for the week about what Cleverley's best position is, because yeah, he definitely has the capacity to play as a number 10, but he's clearly effective alongside Carrick. That will be really potentially exciting because he's been pretty effective alongside Anderson.
Our best position and the position he's going to play might be two different things. I mean, he might want to play a bit further forward, although, you know, you look at his career and he doesn't have the goals or the assists numbers to justify that, I suppose. But he will definitely play deeper this season.
Yeah, and you know, that's great it might not be his favoured position, but it's fantastic for the club that he can do it, because that's what we need.
Talking of Twitter questions, do we have any more? Master of the Twitter question?
We certainly do. At @office_monkey and at Jake Nelson 94 responded within seconds of each other to my shout out for questions on Twitter earlier today, asking whether it was right for Sir Alex Ferguson to ban journalists from a press conference for basically telling the truth.
This Mark Ogden, the aforementioned Mark Ogden, who's been banned from Carrington for revealing that Rio Ferdinand was injured and wouldn't play against Everton. You know, broke the story. Doing what a good journalist does. I love this comment from Ogden. The official reason is that Fergie believes I damaged their competitive advantage by revealing Rio's injury. As such, he wants to affect my competitive advantage by banning me. So I have to say, it used to annoy me. I mean, I've worked in the media in the past, right? So this used to annoy me because Ogden is just doing his job. You know, he's doing a good job and finding out stories. So it's ridiculous. And Ferguson has done this for years, and it's been kind of pathetic, and it's normally about what his personal agenda is. But now it's just getting a bit much for a world-class institution and a brand or a club that wants to have a brand that is positively conveyed, so we get the messages out for all our lovely sponsors and stuff like that. I think this is a wholly counterproductive strategy, completely and utterly, and he won't get what he wants. And I think it's not going to be good for Ferguson at the end. When he retires, he will get shredded, because the vault opens. Every newspaper has their vault of stories that they didn't quite want to publish for fear of, you know, getting banned or not getting access or whatever, and they'll all come out, and it won't be good for him. And I don't think, and I'm not saying Ogden has a bunch of tawdry stories he wants to print, but if you turn it into a war, you will get a war at some point, and maybe not now, but at some point in the future. That's a problem. It's also right now, you know, next time Ferguson complains about there being some kind of media conspiracy when a player gets banned for, you know, the FA decides to look at video footage retrospectively or something, and Ferguson complains about there being a media witch hunt. I wonder why, you know. And so if I was advising them on PR strategy, I'd be saying totally wrong thing to do. I just don't think there's anyone strong enough in the United PR department to convey that message.
I don't disagree with any of that. It's all a bit upsetting. If I try and put myself in the shoes of, if it was, say it was Kenny Dalglish that had done it, I'd be kind of mocking it and making fun of Liverpool fans and saying, God, I can't even stomach having the media in the room in case they criticise his precious, perfect world. We've talked about the issue of Ferguson and the media before. The thing that you've always pointed out is what he doesn't seem to get is he's not talking to journalists, he's talking to the fans through the journalists. journalists. You know, the people that read and consume that content are the people that care about Manchester United. Now, some of them are the people that care about Manchester United because they hate them, but on the other hand, some of them are us. We want to know what's going on at the club. Fergie isn't going to ring us up or appear on the Rantcast. So, you know, we need journalists to be able to ask him questions, and to me that's of much more value if there's honest dialogue and openness and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, if you're making a high level transfer negotiation, then yeah, there's an issue of competitive advantage. But if Rio's injured. That's, you know, he's not going to suddenly play.
Too right, and I'll tell you what damages United's competitive advantage way more than a journalist breaking a true story. £550 million disappearing out of the club over the last 7 years in debt-related costs. Anyway, that's the last I'll say about money this week. But you know, come on, the hypocrisy, it's got to get you. It's getting to me.
No, absolutely, and the thing is, that's just him. It's just Fergie. It's a personal thing. He hates the press. He hates being attacked. He hates the role the press play in football. You know, and that's been the case for a long time. And this is how it manifests itself. And it's sad. It makes him look bad, and it makes the club look bad. But you know, it doesn't matter because it's Fergie. And you know, the kind of reaction amongst the United faithful is a bit upsetting because the kind of mentality of the Fergie can do no wrong people. It's like they're in a weird cult, you know?
Yeah.
He can do lots and lots wrong. That doesn't mean, and to say that doesn't mean somehow you're betraying your unswerving loyalty to Manchester United, the concept. You know, so I still have critical faculties just because I'm a football fan.
Kids, don't drink the Kool-Aid. That's all I have to say on this one, you know. And if you don't get the reference, go look it up, but, you know, it's right.
Yeah, don't drink the Chevrolet branded Kool-Aid. At the Boy Sly asks, like early last season, United's high press tends to leave an out ball and a counter open. I think he might be American. I'm sorry if you're not, but that language, it might not be actually, because there is an out ball and a counter open. And he asks whether he's right to blame Mike Phelan for that. Definitely not. You were definitely not right to blame Mike Phelan for anything to do with United's tactics. If Fergie doesn't like something that's going on at United, I don't think he's going to let Mike Phelan talk him round.
No, I know what he means. I mean, I actually don't think United press that high. The issue is about commitment of players forward and protection at the back, and so United are open through midfield. Is that a high-pressing system? I don't think it is. I don't think you see United's front three pressing. I don't think that's meaning that the opposition can counter. United commit a lot of players forward. And if you're not playing a system where someone is protecting the back four, United's going to be way too open. I mean, Scholes is not going to protect the back four in the same way Carrick does. He doesn't have the same kind of defensive nous. Anderson certainly didn't. He wandered off, basically. You know, he just went off on one completely. Such a poor second half against Fulham. So I don't know that's quite the right way to put it. I think United should have a better pressing game. I think it's a weakness in United's system. The only two times I've seen United try and press were the last two Champions League finals, and it happened for about 10 minutes in each before United got completely battered.
Yeah, and I think it comes back to that point about fullbacks as well, which is that he allows both fullbacks to roam on the basis that the defenders can take care, the central defenders can take care of themselves. I think that's a key part of that tactical openness. And when it's Rio and Vidic, well, especially like when you look back and it's Rio, Vidic and Edwin van der Sar, and increasingly De Gea's kind of, you know, becoming a solid and inspirational sort of presence. Increasingly that's going to continue to be the case, that he can trust his central defenders to make up for some of the shortcomings in the system defensively. Final question from @Yuri. He asks, will United be left short of wingers if we sell Nani? Yes, we will be left short of wingers, but we're not going to sell Nani.
No, there's no chance. I mean, we're recording this a couple of days ahead of the transfer window closing. I don't think there's any chance of that. I know that there's a lot of frustration with Nani. I'm pretty sure that the coaching staff share it at United. But he puts up the numbers. He puts up the goals. He puts up the assists. And he's a player who can score a goal in a big game. So I don't think there's any chance United are going to cash in. I know he was dropped for the Fulham game, deservedly so. His performance against Everton was one of the worst I've ever seen from a United player. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that. But he's not going to go just yet. You know, maybe in the summer, who knows? But I think you'd line up a replacement first, and to replace those kind of numbers you'd have to spend a lot of money.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree with that. I think Nani being dropped a week before the transfer window does not mean that Nani's going to be sold a week before the transfer window closes. Sorry, slams shut.
Always slams. Childish error there, Paul.
Sir Alex, 1,000 league games. I mean, we've just talked about some of the downsides. If you want to know our thoughts on Sir Alex, go back to the 25th anniversary where we waxed lyrical about him. You know, I mean, we both have real strong reservations about the way he handles the media. Definitely the way he relates to the ownership and the fans is you know, I think is saddening for both of us. But also that neither of us would ever say anything other than that he's the greatest manager in the history of football, probably, right?
And it's just an arbitrary number, but it's interesting, you know, 1,000 league games and way ahead of anyone else.
That is a lot of league games.
By the end of the season, it will be 1,500 in total in all competitions. And of course, his 1,000th will be against the mighty Southampton at that... it's not the Dell anymore, is it? It's St Mary's. They'd show my age there. Newly promoted, United should be getting another 3 points.
Well, talking of Sir Alex and league games and away trips to Southampton, I'm sure out of that 1,000, one of the most memorable was the time we got battered because we were wearing the wrong coloured shirts.
Yeah, I can only remember the second half. I couldn't see the players in the first half.
It's weird that Southampton, sort of forgot about them, but they were absolutely ever present and always something of a difficult team for United, weren't they? They used to the classic kind of game raisers against us, weren't they?
They were, and there was that 5-3 and then some other memorable defeats as well. You know, Matt Letizia was on the end of a few of those goals, I think, and they've got a decent side these days. There's a few players in there I like. I mean, Adam Lallana, I think he's got the potential of midfielder, got the potential to do some good things. And we talked about Nathaniel Klein, who's looked for a minute like he was on his way to United. Certainly some very good sources saying that he was, and some very good sources saying that he wasn't. So interesting one that, but he's gone to Southampton, the defender, and I think that'll be one of their problems, though, defensively for Southampton. That'll factor into whether they can manage to stay up. I mean, in Kelvin Davis, they've got one of the worst keepers in the division. Fact. Well, maybe not fact.
Well, one of the worst keepers in the division. Talking of which, as we record, QPR have just confirmed the signing of Julio Cesar, apparently.
Great quote from Julio Cesar, the Inter keeper. Inter asked me to take a pay cut, and I'm not going to lie to you and be a hypocrite, and I wasn't going to do that, so my agent came and told me this was a good decision. So he's gone to QPR for the glory and the proud traditions of the mighty Hoops.
And he just wants to murk Rob Green for Rob Green's disgracing of the Goalkeepers Union. But yes, back to Southampton. Ricky Lambert, he of Ricky Lambert celebrates one of the greatest pieces of commentary of the modern era. He banged them in all season in the Championship and then wasn't started in the first game in the Prem, but came on and scored as they gave City a bit of a fright. I think they'll be fairly tough at home, but you'd expect us to beat them, wouldn't you?
You certainly would. He scored a good goal at City and mega celebration, wasn't it? So, hey, if United don't win these kind of games, then we are in big trouble. But I think it will be fine. It'd be interesting to see United on the road this season. Of course, pretty good record on the road last season. Poor one the season before. Which will it be, Jekyll or Hyde? It's hard to see United playing differently than they are now, though. I mean, how are we going to set up defensively? I can't see it. I mean, it's, 18 forwards at the club and 2 defenders. So, yeah, it's hard to see that. And you can't bring Park into the side and can't bring Jones into midfield and all the kind of tricks that he has up his sleeve in the past. So I think United play in very, very similar way, and it'll be about keeping an awful lot of possession and converting those chances.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess I'm optimistic about United's chances. That lovely free-flowing football, I definitely think we'll concede. I'll be shocked if we keep a clean sheet. I'm going to go for 3-1 to United. Matt Le Tissier to score Southampton's.
Yeah, and David De Gea to let it through his legs. No, he wouldn't do that.
No.
I think you're right. I think United won't keep a clean sheet, so I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to United on the road.
And just because I haven't done this for ages, everyone who likes hip-hop should definitely download Awate's mixtape Elements. Just throwing that in there as a random plug at the end of the show. And talking of plugs, if you want to follow me on Twitter, that's at UTDRantcast. And if you want to follow Ed, that's at UnitedRant. We love to hear feedback from the show, especially if you've enjoyed it. You can also, if you really enjoyed it, it's super helpful to us if you put a review on iTunes where the charts are kind of calculated based on the reviews, as does you very kindly listening. So thank you for that.
For the glory of us being at the top, of course. Oh, and to spread the gospel of Rantcast.
Exactly. And if you're not a Twitter person, you can like United Rant on Facebook, or you can even use the old-fashioned technique of emailing us at cast@unitedrant.co.uk. That still works, right?
It's a bit 20th century.
Very 20th century. Or you can early 21st century. You can MSN Messenger us. No, that's not an option. I'll take that back.
Yeah, well, you can write to Paul at...
I'm not giving my address out, although I have got the address of the winner of the Bebe competition, who helpfully doesn't live that far away from me, so bonus on the postage front there.
Very good. I guess that's it for the week, and let's hope we're talking about another United victory next week. I think we will, and we'll say goodbye to Dimitar Berbatov for the last time. Ta-ra, Dimitar, thanks for the memories, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening indeed, and we'll be back next week.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.